Good Monday morning, 8 o'clock on this January 13th. Thanks so much for joining us here on ARC Rochester. I'm Stephanie Joseph.
And I'm Christian Garzone. Dan and Abby are both off this morning, but we still have a lot to get to this morning, including this week's Health in a Handbasket. We will be checking in on our New Year's resolutions and talking more about how we can keep on track.
And then later, we are celebrating this Victory Monday. The Bills moving on in the postseason, securing a spot in the divisional round after that dominant 31-7 win over the Denver Broncos. We'll, of course, be chatting with Mike Catalana himself about the game and some of his big takeaways.
But before all of that, we want to check in on the forecast this morning with our meteorologist, Mark McLean. He joins us now for a look at the Monday morning weather. Hey, Mark.
Hey, we'd have it this way, right? We would like a start like this every time if we could. The clouds out there for this time of the year, though, it's mild. We've got temps in the 30s, but this is something we're tracking back to the west of Rochester. This will bring us some changes as we head through the rest of the morning and this afternoon. There's a cold front back there, and that cold front's going to produce a couple of snow showers late this morning as it starts to cross western New York. So I don't think this is something that's going to stop you from what you're doing, but it's certainly something that put down a little coating of snow as we go through about midday or so. Now that front eases off to the east of Rochester, but as it does so, it's going to take and bring in some colder air, so some lake effect starts to develop off Lake Erie, especially southwest of Rochester, and that's going to produce variable travel conditions, especially south of Buffalo on the 90 and east of Rochester out toward the trough of low pressure there, and could just give us a quick coating of snow again near Rochester. But a lake effect snow warning southwest into Wyoming County by late Wednesday night, possibility of over 6 inches of snow there, and Genesee County southern parts could be 2 to 4 inches there, with most of us just seeing a coating to an inch through that period. But temperature in Rewind today, we're going to go through the low 30s at noon, upper 20s by 4 o'clock. A windy and colder setup coming up, and we're going to talk more about that. And we're also going to talk a little bit at 8:30 about the Santa Ana winds out west. We're going to have a look at that and the meteorology that's baked into that for the wildfires, the sad wildfires out there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, let's go now to the latest developments on some of the top stories that we have been following this Monday morning.
We want to start with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office requesting your help to find a missing woman. Take a look at your screen. This is 18-year-old Rihanna Price of Chilai. Deputies say she was last seen Friday leaving her home on Audino Lane in an Uber. She's 5'10" and has red hair. Anyone with information is asked to call 911.
Now to closing arguments beginning today in the trial of the man accused in the murder of a Rochester taxi driver last year. Now 36-year-old David Lee Porter is charged with murder, robbery, and criminal possession of a weapon in the brutal death of David Treese. Police say Porter pistol whipped Treese and shot him multiple times during a violent robbery last April.
Last week, jurors watched camera footage taken inside the cab, which showed Porter allegedly attacking and shooting Treese while yelling, quote, "Give me the money and keep driving." The defense is arguing the charge of murder with intent and says Porter was intoxicated at the time of the alleged murder.
Now 13 WHAM will be in the courtroom for closing arguments today, and we're told Porter is expected to take the stand.
We will keep you up to date with the latest on the trial, both on air and online over at 13wham.com.
Meantime, a woman in her 30s is recovering after she was hit by a vehicle yesterday. Officers say just after 8:45 Sunday night, the woman was trying to cross West Avenue when she was hit by a car.
She was taken to Strong Memorial with what we're told are non-life-threatening injuries. The driver did remain on scene and is cooperating with the investigation. Officers say alcohol or drugs were not a factor and no tickets were issued. We want to turn now to some national news as President-elect Donald Trump prepares to take office next week.
Now, Trump says one of his first orders of business is to pardon people who took part in the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. But Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, says not everyone should be pardoned.
If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly.
More than 1,500 people have been charged with federal crimes ranging from misdemeanors for illegally entering the Capitol to felonies related to assaulting and beating police officers.
Turning now to the Senate, that will begin confirmation hearings for President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks.
This includes Pete Hegseth, Trump's choice for defense secretary. He has faced scrutiny for previous comments made about women in military combat roles, along with allegations of sexual misconduct and problematic drinking.
Now, other cabinet picks include Florida Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Kash Patel to lead the FBI, former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Director of the Health and Human Services, and former New York gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin to lead the EPA.
And turning now to the Bills. We're moving on to the divisional round after their 31-7 win over the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I've got my blue on, a shade of blue in honor of that.
Well, that works.
Of course. For more, here's Mike Catalano with the highlights from Orchard Park.
Good morning from Orchard Park, where the Bills have advanced, moved on in the playoffs after a 31-7 win over the Denver Broncos. Now they get set to play against the Baltimore Ravens. This one did not start out the way the Bills would have wanted it to. How about the Broncos going right down the field and getting a touchdown? But from that point on, it was all Bills. The run game was dominant in this one. James Cook getting a score, and then Josh Allen got rolling. It's the play everybody's going to talk about. On the fourth down, he makes the throw. Ty Johnson, incredible catch. Bills would build a 21-7 lead and then cruise from that point on. They would win it by a final score of 31-7. That's great. They were better than the Broncos. They advanced. They get the win. Everybody's focus is on next week when they play against the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm going to enjoy the win first, but I love playing good-on-good football. We have a lot of competitors on our team. And, you know, when juggernauts come into town or when we go to their spot, you know, the intensity's up, and I love it. I love when the intensity is high. But we'll see them in a week, you know. They're a good team, and we look forward to it.
And yes, the Bills and Ravens have met before. It was down in Baltimore earlier in the year. It was a dominant win by the Ravens. It's a different time in a different place. They will play here, and the winner of that game goes on to the AFC Championship. Complete coverage on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel for now. In Orchard Park, Mike Catalano for Buffalo Plus.
And to get to the Buffalo Plus YouTube page, all you have to do, just scan that QR code with your smartphone.
And as we mentioned earlier, we'll be joined by Mike for much more on yesterday's win as they look to win their first ever Lombardi Trophy. That's coming up in just a little bit.
Well, we want to go now to our poll of the day, and this morning we are looking to Chris Lopez for inspiration.
Yeah, this morning he's live from the New York kitchen in Canandaigua, eating, drinking, and learning how to cook. We will get a closer look at some of the classes they offer and how to get involved. And speaking of cooking, for our poll of the day, we're asking you, what's your least favorite part about cooking? Your options are finding the perfect recipe, going shopping for ingredients, the prep work, or the sink full of dishes afterwards.
I went ahead with finding a recipe because before it was the sink full of dishes. I did not have an apartment that had a dishwasher. So it was always so much to clean all those pots and pans. But now if I want to change something up, I have to work hard for it.
For me, I might surprise you with this. I reek of single. Microwaving for me is always the toughest challenge because when you have like potatoes or something in the microwave, they pop all over the top of the microwave. Or soup, boom, boom, you hear, oh no, in your microwave, it looks like something exploded. Well, something did explode in there, but it's just all over the place. So for me, my prep, and this is so pathetic. Mom, I'm sorry. I do eat well, I promise you, but I do microwave quite a bit. So for me, that's my only stress point. I don't really cook or prep a lot. I look great though. Healthy? Yeah.
Fantastic.
For 43 years old this Friday, you kidding me?
Yeah, you go ahead, Christian.
Hey, microwaving's key, I think.
Well, we want to hear from you as well. Head to our X account, or you could also scan that QR code on your screen to get there right now. We want you to vote and also comment below. We want to also know about what's really stressing you out in the kitchen. We'll share those responses and much more coming up at the end of our next hour.
Stick around. We have much more to get
by streaming us live on the 13 WHAM YouTube channel. We're back after this.
And welcome back. To start off the new year, our own Chris Lopez has been trying his hand in some new hobbies, expanding his horizons.
Yeah, throughout this morning, he has been spending time in the kitchen, learning some different techniques and chefing it up. So we go live to him at New York Kitchen in Canandaigua for more. Hey, Chris, what are you up to?
Hey, what's up, guys? So part of chefing it up is having a good beverage. And to start the year, some of us may have different goals than others. One of them may be cutting back on alcohol. I bring in Heather this morning, your beverage educator here at New York Kitchen.
I am.
The big trend coming up, or is here already, not coming up.
Absolutely.
Non-alcoholic drinks.
Yes.
And we have a list right here, but I do want to start out with, when did that boom, when did it start, and then when did the boom take off?
Well, it really started around 2008 when we started really seeing more non-alcoholic beverages on the market. But when it really exploded, when we really knew that non-alcoholic beer especially had arrived, was 2023, when the first Super Bowl ad of a non-alcoholic beer was out there with Paul Rudd and the Ant-Man. So since then, craft breweries and wineries have just exploded with all sorts of different choices out there. Used to be you could only get sweet wine and, you know, your basic non-alcoholic Pilsner.
Okay.
Now you can get IPAs and stouts and rosés and reds and dry wine and sweet wine, and it's really, you can find anything you could possibly want out there.
Difference between alcohol-free and non-alcoholic, though, there is one, even though it's small. Can you kind of discern those two, please?
Sure, it is a very small difference. So alcohol-free is truly made with never having any alcohol in it, 0% alcohol, whereas 0.5% is non-alcoholic. Now, it really doesn't make a difference to your body which one you have, because 0.5% alcohol is metabolized so quickly in your body that it won't get to your bloodstream. You cannot drink fast enough to get intoxicated from something that's non-alcoholic, even with 0.5.
You have OJ, or you told me you have OJ in your refrigerator that has 0.5. If it's been there opened within a day?
Yeah, pretty much as soon as you open any juice or anything that has sugar in it, yeast in the air will get into it and will start to ferment that juice. And, you know, in a couple of days, you will have 0.5% in your orange juice, and it really is fine.
And then we're going to go over here to the different, trying to taste test some of these. Disclaimer, I taste tested. I couldn't help myself. I had to taste test this bad boy right here. And then I wanted to try the hop water. I do want to start out with the hop water. Hop water, what are we talking about when it comes to hop water? Just hops and water?
Pretty much. So if you've ever had a flavored sparkling water, a lime sparkling water, or, you know, mango or whatever, this is just a hop version of that. So you have, you kind of make a tea out of hops and water, get that hoppy fruitiness, that flavor, that floralness, and then take that water and carbonate it, and you have a hop water.
It's like carbonate. It's like almost like carbonated, like a grapefruit is what I'm tasting in this right here.
This particular one is a citrus mango one, so we do have that citrus note to it. And then definitely the spice of the hops.
I want to scan over to this one.
Yes.
Got a small taste. I was told to stop tasting, wait till it's live TV. I want to go back to this. This one here, what is this?
Isn't it just such a beautiful color?
Very nice.
It is a rosé cider. So we know, you know, sweet cider in the grocery store, but hard ciders are usually drier. They have a little bit more bite, and they're carbonated. And so now we're coming out with these as non-alcoholic versions, and that's a rosé version of a hard cider.
And if you're working out,
yes,
come back from a workout, you don't want to crack open a beer or anything like that. You want to keep it pretty healthy. You said this stuff can actually help with recovery. You got to kind of use a little bit of imagination, kind of piece some things together, but you can make it work.
Absolutely, and especially non-alcoholic beer. Non-alcoholic beer is, number one, it's hydrating just like water is. So if you're drinking a pint of non-alcoholic beer, you're getting 16 ounces of water.
That's good too.
Isn't it? They're all good. I love them. And then they also contain things called polyphenols. Polyphenols regulate inflammation in your body. And so it can help with muscle soreness after a workout. as well as things like there are vitamins and minerals in non-alcoholic beers as well. The only thing you're really missing from a non-alcoholic beer, as opposed to, say, a sports drink, are those electrolytes. And so the salt content in a sports drink is not in the beer. You have your carbohydrates in a non-alcoholic beer, but it's about half the calories of a standard beer. So you've got a nice balance there. And basically, if you kick back with a pint of non-alcoholic beer and a handful of salted peanuts, you've got everything you need for recovery.
And if someone wants to learn a class from you, they want to attend a class from Heather, how can they do that?
Well, that's great. I'm the intoxicating professor, so
Okay.
all of my classes range around the science and history of foods and beverages and holidays that are so important to our enjoyment. And you can go to the New York Kitchen website to find all of my classes and all of my wonderful colleagues' classes. I have a class coming up on beer, bread, and wine about the science of yeast. A colleague of mine is doing a class on zero-proof cocktails coming up. We have all sorts of different subjects for everybody's interest, and we have a really good time, and you get to taste all these wonderful things when you're here.
Come check out Intoxicating Professor Heather, teaching me everything about not being intoxicated. We're going to be back in the kitchen with Chef Jamie in the next segment. Back to you guys in studio.
Never too early for an NA.
Right.
Never too early.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Early morning boost. Thank you, Chris, so much. Appreciate that. Stick around. We have much more to get to here on Art Rochester, including, when we come back, a look at some news you can use.
We're back right after this. 8:21 this Monday morning. Time now to take a look at some news you can use here on ARC Rochester, focusing on top headlines in consumer news.
We'll start out with things. The USDA is releasing its report on a deadly listeria outbreak last summer linked to Boar's Head Deli Meats.
Yeah, now that report shows unsanitary conditions at a facility in Virginia were contributing factors to the outbreak, which killed 10 people and sickened more than 60 others.
Food inspectors say they found living and dead insects along with mold, mildew, and other problems at the facility, which was closed last fall. The report also called for better government oversight to prevent future listeria outbreaks.
Now, let's turn now to some space news. Blue Origin says it's working to reschedule the launch of its 30-story New Glenn rocket.
It comes after technical problems caused the company to cancel its attempt planned for early this morning.
Yeah, ABC's Andrew Dimbert has more.
Overnight, a setback as Jeff Bezos takes on Elon Musk in the modern space race. Blue Origin, the space tech company founded by Jeff Bezos, delaying the launch of New Glenn, set to be the first rocket from the company to reach orbit.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9.
The reusable rocket marks the first major competitor to Elon Musk's SpaceX Falcon 9, which has been launching payloads for more than a decade. New Glenn is larger than the Falcon 9 and packs twice the power.
We can take 45 metric tons to LEO orbit. It really changes what people are going to think about how and what they can bring to space.
Blue Origin has made some notable launches in the past, sending nearly 50 people into space aboard their New Shepard rocket, including our Michael Strahan.
Oh, my God.
At the same height as a 32-story building, New Glenn could fit the New Shepard rocket inside its cargo hold, and yet it's still not as large as SpaceX Starship rocket. Bezos is also challenging Musk on other fronts, with plans to launch a constellation of internet satellites to take on SpaceX's Starlink internet service. And the race is on to be the first private company to land humans on the moon, something that hasn't been done in more than 50 years. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
8:24. Now you have to take a look at this that we're about to show you, because you can soon own a piece of Olympic history.
A gold medal from the 1904 Summer Games is on the auction block. It was awarded to American Fred Schul after he won the 110-meter hurdles.
The 1904 Games in St. Louis were the first ones held outside Europe and marked the first time gold, silver, and bronze medals were awarded to the top 3 finishers. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Now stick around. We have more to come here on ARC Rochester, including a check of the forecast with Mark.
And we're back after this.
Good Monday morning and welcome back to ARC Rochester. I'm Christian Garzone.
And I'm Stephanie Joseph. We still have so much more to get to here on ARC Rochester. But first, we want to turn to meteorologist Mark McLean joining us now for a check of the forecast.
Yeah.
Now, we do want to go behind the story here on ARC Rochester and talk more about some of the top headlines.
Or just 1 second before that, we want to hear the forecast.
We're going to do all of that.
We're ready to go.
Myself here. All right. Yeah.
It's all straight ahead, right? We'll take a
preview.
That's right. That's right. A peek of the local forecast, though.
Yeah.
Here you go. You've got some snow showers off to the west of Rochester. There's a cold front in there, and that cold front's going to bring us some changes. You're going to notice the wind kick up this afternoon, some gusts near 30. You're also going to notice maybe a quick coating of snow. We'll see about this. So over the next 2 to 3 hours, as that front does move across, it's going to give us that chance. But on the futurecast, it's really going to be areas well southwest of Rochester that have a chance of seeing a quote shovelable snow over the next couple of days. Most of us are going to miss out on that opportunity closer to the city, and it's down into Wyoming County. You see even Livingston County there catching some of it, south of Buffalo and east of Lake Ontario. That's where a lot of this snow is going to fly overnight tonight and into Tuesday. Now, Tuesday night, I'll pause right there. This is our chance, like 9, 10, 11 o'clock Tuesday evening. We'll find a trough of low pressure kicking the wind out of the northwest off of Lake Ontario, so closer to the city. We may catch a coating to an inch there, but for most of us, this is going to be where the snow is. Southern parts of Genesee County, Wyoming County, snow amounts there. It could be locally 6-inch plus by the time we get to late Wednesday night and early Thursday morning. So we're going to keep a lot of that snow out of the picture closer to Rochester. But this is kind of weird, right? It's weather in reverse today. Low 30s at lunchtime, upper 20s at 4 o'clock, and your extended forecast. It's one for the winter lovers here. We're going to go back to the low 20s on Tuesday, near 20 on Wednesday with bitter cold air there. We'll hold in the mid 20s there for Thursday, some snow showers around, and not quite as harsh towards the end of the week. And for our Bills fans out there, we're watching Saturday, Sunday for that time period right there. There is the potential of a storm system moving through the Great Lakes, and that could set down a shovelable snow if all the wrong things come together the right way, as I like to say. That could be interesting for that Sunday time period.
But at least we're above freezing, I like to think,
yesterday it got up to 36 degrees. It was the first day that we've had temperatures above freezing in 9 days.
Wow.
Yeah, we were sub 30 for 8 straight days. So that was the longest stretch that we've had since last January. So it's been about a year.
Nice cowabunga surprise, shall we say.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever that means, I don't know, but it was a nice surprise.
There were some cold mornings in there, too. We had some mornings that were in the single digits last week.
Wow.
And, some cold stuff.
Yeah. And this week as well, dipping back down, correct?
Yeah, it's weird because the overnights don't get quite as cold. The overnights are going to stay close to normal with the mid to upper teens, but it's the daytime high temperatures that are going to quote bring the average down. We're near 20 by Wednesday, low 20s on Tuesday, and that's that's way off the pace, obviously, for this time of the year. Normally we'd be around 33 degrees.
All right, Mark, thanks a lot. Now, you heard my teaser earlier. Now, we do want to go behind the story here on ARC Rochester and talk some more about the top news headlines we're following this morning.
Yeah, so we want to stick on the topic of weather and discuss some of the latest developments in Los Angeles as crews continue to battle those massive wildfires. Now, at least 24 people are believed to be dead, and more than a dozen others remain unaccounted for.
More than 12,000 structures are believed damaged or destroyed as the fire surpasses 60 square miles and continues to burn. Some who are able to escape the flames say they will rebuild, but it will take time to fully process the losses.
Well,
Denial.
I would lie to you if I were going to tell you I hadn't cried a lot. Of course, I think we're doing well considering. But yes, lots of tears, anger. We're going through the stages of grief. There's no doubt about it. I think I finally went from denial into anger last night. But this is a challenge that I know we'll get through it. We've gotten through challenges before. This just feels like the biggest thing that's ever happened to us. But we will get through it. We just have to take every step, and standing in this line is one of those steps.
Now, according to CAL FIRE, the two largest wildfires, that's the Palisades and Eaton fires, are both less than 30% contained, and a red flag warning is in effect through Wednesday evening.
Now we have meteorologist Mark McLean here to talk more about these wildfires with a weather perspective. Mark, what can you break down with us behind the scenes here with this?
There's a lot of meteorology packed into this. There's a word you've probably never heard us say it on TV before, catabatic. That's what even is it, right?
Yeah.
So this is a downslope wind. So there's a wind that comes out of the mountains. It sinks. The air is cool, and the air is dry. It compresses, and when that air gets squeezed into these mountainous canyons, it's like you take a deep breath, right? You take it in, and then you expel it, and you can feel the pressure of that air coming out. And in between these canyons, that rapidly accelerates these winds, and you get these wind gusts that are 80+ miles an hour of this dry air that's coming down through some of these spots that haven't had rain, frankly, in 4 to 5 months. Wow. And you can just appreciate even something like a cigarette butt, or somebody that was careless at a campfire. It could be anything that could spark a power line that throws a spark or arcs. Can cause an issue, but that's what they're dealing with here. And these folks that have these homes in these mountainous areas, it's very difficult to get water into these areas. A lot of these areas have wells, and they have to go deep to get the water to try and put out these fires. But it's that Santa Ana process where you get large high pressure over the Rockies. That air sinks, it descends into the mountainous canyons, and that rapidly accelerates it as it moves back towards the coastline.
And you kind of touched on it before, but what sort of challenge does this present? We see people with helicopters flying over, putting down the flame retardant in the water. What are they facing dealing with these winds?
Yeah, and they're just looking for a break. And it looks like through about Wednesday or so, some of these conditions may improve a little bit. But it's the resources to fight the fires too. You see these airplanes that are coming down and skimming the water surfaces to pull up some water that they can bring back and drop down on some of these fires. Now, a couple of days ago, they were 0% contained, so I guess it's a good thing to see that it's back to 30% contained. But this time of the year, with that cool high pressure just sitting over the mountains, it's like when you go to your kitchen and you cut an orange in half and you put it in the juicer, right? And you squeeze it down and you watch everything come out. It's the same process in weather. With high pressure, the air just sinks, it hits the ground, it expands, and as it's expanding, it just goes through these narrow channels in these mountainous areas, and it's just rapidly accelerating those winds.
And speaking of water, I saw a lot of comments online. People were saying, why not just take the water from the ocean? But a lot of people were reminding everyone, with the salt water, you can't. That's going to destroy all the vegetation. It's almost like what the Romans did to Carthage when they salted the earth so nothing would grow again.
Right. Yeah. It's not a great scenario, and it's tough to get the crews into those areas too, because a lot of these spots are mountainous. There's a lot of elevation there, so the fire trucks take a lot longer to respond to these areas. It takes longer to go up, and you've been on a mountainous road before. You got to go back and forth and back and forth, and these trucks have thousands of gallons of water on them, so they're slow moving anyway. But you just have to feel for those people. It's horrible.
Challenges all around.
Yeah, it is devastating. A lot of people, they never thought their home would be in the path of a wildfire like this. Multiple wildfires, that is. So. Yeah, sorry.
You see the aftermath too, and you're already when you start to piece it back together, you start to talk to the insurance agencies. The insurance agencies are, trying to escape the area because of the cost of an event like this, and we're definitely well beyond a threshold of billions here.
That is for sure. Just taking a look at that, entire neighborhoods. There's an aerial view where you can see homes just leveled, turned to rubble. Even looking at this right here, just. It's shocking.
It looks like Hawaii. Remember Hawaii when they had the fire there?
I do. It's a whole other discussion to have when it comes to rebuilding an insurance. I have no idea how that's even going to take place. It's going to be a massive undertaking.
And it's something very, very simple in meteorology. We talk about it at MCC. I teach a weather course there, and Santa Ana, Katabatic. We get into Chinook winds. You maybe have heard of those. They're all in the same kind of family. All just rapidly descending air that's just firing through these areas.
It's so hard to think about this and what they're going through on the ground there. The people have lost so much, and the first responders. It really makes you think. It's just thoughts and prayers to the people on the West Coast.
For sure.
Mark, thank you so much. Stick around. We have much more to get to here on ARC Rochester, including when we come back, we're checking back in with Chris Lopez, who is live getting some cooking lessons. Stay tuned.
And don't forget that you can watch us on the go wherever you are by streaming us live on the 13 WHAM YouTube channel. We're back after this. Well, if your New Year's resolution is to try new things, then listen up, because our own Chris Lopez is looking to try his hand at a bunch of new hobbies and skills in 2025.
And this morning he's in the kitchen learning the art of cooking. All right, he's live at the New York kitchen in Canandaigua with more. Hey there, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? We are learning to cook one of the stars of probably some of your dishes, and that is the protein. I bring in Chef Jamie. Now, when it comes to cooking your protein, what is something people usually get intimidated by?
I think a lot of people are intimidated by things like cost. They look at the price of a piece of meat, particularly the price of beef or seafood nowadays, and they begin to get afraid that somehow they're going to mess that piece of meat up. And so they don't want to try that one at home.
And you shouldn't be.
And you shouldn't be, right? You got to practice. Practice makes perfect, right, for sure. And of course, you can always try with hamburger, chicken breast, things that are a little bit lighter on the wallet than filet mignon and the ribeye that we have here today.
We got the filet mignon over here, and then the ribeye over here. And then what are we starting with? And then how should we start when it comes to prepping your protein?
So we picked these up yesterday. Ideally, you want to warm them up just a little bit, right? Pull them out of the cooler a little bit before you're ready to go. Then you're going to just take a piece of paper towel, and you're going to pat these things dry. Right? That moisture is the enemy of searing. And you can see the moisture that's there. Right? And we want to get rid of some of that. And so we'll flip these guys over. Right? And then we're going to hit it with a little bit of some sort of seasoning, whichever you want. Some people, simple as salt and pepper. Other people use something. I use salt, pepper, a little bit of granulated garlic, right? As our students know, it's called SPG, right? Salt, pepper, garlic, SPG 1, 2, 3. So 1 part salt, 2 part pepper, 3 part granulated garlic. But I know people who also put granulated onion in there. They'll put a little bit of ground thyme in there. Anything that you desire works, right? A lot of the seasoning blends that you buy are largely salt. So you want to pay a little bit of attention to that. So we're going to season these, right? We're sprinkling a little bit up in the air so we get a nice uniform coat.
And if we weren't on TV, how early would you want to salt this or season this?
I would do these usually probably 10 minutes or so before I get started, 10, 15 minutes in that ballpark. We're going to make sure that we hit both sides.
Importance on 1 to 10 when it comes to flavor, seasoning your protein. How important is it?
Very. Very. You want that to have a good spice flavor that's cooked into your meat, right? And so now that we have these things seasoned, we have a couple of options, right? The number one thing that people run into as a problem when they're searing proteins is that they do not have the fire up really high enough, right, to get a good sear.
Okay.
What we want to do is we want to get a nice crust, right, on both of these pieces of meat, so that it keeps the juices inside, right? And so that's the point of doing this. I have cast iron. Cast iron is great because it's easy to keep clean. It holds heat very, very well. But I also understand not everybody has cast iron. Cast iron usually is seasoned with a little bit of oil ahead of time, right? So they're not going to require additional oil. We'll put that in, and I should hear that noise right away, right? On this side, I've got just a normal aluminum saute pan. So we will throw a little bit of oil in that, and then we'll take our filet and we'll drop our filet right there in the center of the pan. If you're doing multiple, you want to make sure you're leaving a little bit of space in between those, right? So you're not crowding the pan, and so that protein can cook well.
When it comes to the fat, what kind of fat are you using, and does it matter between coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil?
Something that has a high smoke point. So olive oil has a fairly low smoke point, so you're going to get a lot of smoke that way, and your oil is going to burn off. Avocado oil, canola oil have a fairly high smoke point. Peanut oil works very, very well for that as well, right? Some people will also use butter. If you're going to use butter, I would recommend you use the product called ghee, which is clarified butter. It's got the butter solids removed, and that way that butter is not going to burn on you. You should see a little bit of smoke here, right? And a lot of times if I'm entertaining, I'll do a sear before my guests arrive, and then I'll throw this stuff into the cooler until I'm ready for it so I don't have a kitchen full of smoke.
And Chef, what are we looking for when it comes to when these have now been cooking for about a minute or so? Are you looking for anything specific when it comes to the protein?
You just really want to get, like I said, a good crust right on the side of that. And I don't think we're quite at a point where we can flip this guy just yet. But as you see in this filet here, you can see where I'm starting to get some color change up around the side of that. And that's really what we're looking for, right? I chose a filet because there's not a lot of fat, right, associated with that. And so a little bit of oil in the pan will help that way. And if you flip that over, you start to see that you've got a nice crust going there, right? A consideration when you're searing, I know Chef RJ was talking earlier about building sauces, and some of that is, am I going to use the little bits in the bottom of my pan to create a pan sauce? If that's the case, as I am in this aluminum pan here, then I would keep the temperature a little bit lower so that I'm not burning the fond on the bottom of the pan. Here on my cast iron, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to really get that sear coat. And as I flip that over,
that's beautiful.
You can take that, a look at that. You see the fat is starting to get a little bit crisp on the side, right? And again, the goal is to keep that crust nice there. Sometimes with a filet or something thick, I may also want to sear the sides of this, right? Just so that I can really encapsulate the juices in my pan and keep that so that the moisture stays within the steak.
Chef, if you had to tell someone one thing they're learning from this, they forgot everything you said about the protein, but if they're learning how to cook, what's a piece of advice you would tell them?
Keep practicing. Practice, 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 right? I tell students at Finger Lakes Community College, where I teach, you should be cooking every day for anybody or anything that'll eat your food, right? Whether it's the dog, whether it's the cat, whether it's mom and dad, whoever, right? Keep practicing, and don't be upset or intimidated if you goof something up. Use that knowledge and keep going forward. That's really the key.
When do you teach classes here?
I teach some classes here at New York Kitchen, but we start our semester up to the 27th, and most of my time is spent teaching students.
There we go. Thank you so much. We ran short on time. This looks amazing right here. People, keep practicing, taste as you go. I learned so much today at New York Kitchen. Check them out. We're going to have more information about how you can check them out on our website on Fox Rochester. Back to you guys in studio. It smells amazing in here. Smell-o-vision.
Chris, I got to ask you, do you take it medium well done? How do you like your steak?
Medium rare. I like medium rare, Steph. Definitely with the medium rare.
He'll still eat that, though. He'll eat that. He won't bring any back for us.
So we would take these and put them into a hot...
All right, stick around. We have much more to get to here on ARC Rochester, including when we come back, we're getting some advice on how we can keep up with our New Year's resolutions.
We're back right after this. Stay tuned. It's time now for this week's edition of Health in a Handbasket. And this morning we're talking about our progress on our New Year's resolutions and if we survived Quitter's Day.
Well, for more on what that is and how we can keep track with our goals, we are now joined by registered dietitian and nutritionist Alyssa Strassman. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Go ahead.
Yeah, just want to ask you, Quitter's Day, for anyone who isn't familiar at home, it was last week, right?
Yes, it was Friday of last week, and I think it's fair their New Year's resolutions by the end of the first week of January. And that number jumps to 43% by the end of the month. So what I thought we could do today is just address Quitter's Day, and if people are in this category, or if they are feeling like a quitter and feeling all sorts of ways, maybe we can help some people out, because I know sometimes there can be some emotions that come with that. And so what I want everybody just to do, if they were someone that were gung-ho and really wanted to create some changes in 2025, just for anybody that started the year with intentions or resolutions, just look back at the last 13 days and recognize anything that you may have possibly done to make a step towards creating change. So just acknowledge, like, any step that you move forward for what you had hoped for yourself. Like, take a look back and see, was there anything that I did? And if you can find anything, I want everybody to give themselves a pat on the back because you moved forward.
Yeah.
That's really key. That's really key. And you can always pick up where you left off. You can say, okay, I took a couple weeks, but you know what? I'm going to get back on the saddle. And it's mid-February, but you know what? I'm just going to go give another shot here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we get so hard on ourselves, right? Like, it's like black and white thinking, or this all or none. Like, I'm either all in or I'm forget it. Like, I messed up and I'm done. And, you know, life is life. Like, we keep moving through it. And so it's important to recognize, you know, each day is a new day, and there is so many opportunities, and there are so many things that may come, you know, our way, and times where we can practice, you know, some things that we hope for ourselves.
Yeah, that is for sure. And I think it's all about making smaller goals as well to make sure that when you reach that bigger one, it didn't feel like such a big push. Do you have any tips for anyone on how to start making those incremental goals?
Yeah, so I also just going back, when we're thinking about making change, or perhaps like when we think about, wow, I didn't really get to where I was wanting to go for myself, just kind of ask ourselves what got in the way. Because I think oftentimes when we're looking at some of the research, oftentimes when people have trouble like making changes, it's because we're just being so unrealistic with some of the things that we were hoping to achieve for ourselves. And so some things that we may just look at was this intention unrealistic or unreasonable for me at this time in my life? Or perhaps was it less of a priority? Like, we think about all the things that come our way, maybe something else rose to the top, or maybe that wasn't something as important for us, or perhaps that intention that we set out for ourselves wasn't really serving us. You know, it just was something that was too much at that time or too unrealistic. And so if you are a quitter and you decided, hey, that's not for me, then give yourself a round of applause for recognizing, wow, I'm not going to hold myself to this commitment for something that really didn't serve me in the first place.
We live in this society now, it's sort of instant gratification. Maybe we should all dream big but start smaller and recognize it's going to take time to get to where we need to be. And a small step is better than no step.
Yeah, absolutely. I always share with people what is important to you. Like, ask yourself what really is important to you and why is it important to me at this time. So if someone is still wanting to create change in their life, we can do this at any time. It doesn't have to be now. It can be when the time is right, but why is this important to me? What is important to me, and what does that mean for myself? Because it can mean many different things for many different people. But I do have some tips. So if people are still looking to create change, make sure whatever you are working towards is truly meaningful and valuable to you. I think oftentimes we get so much messaging. Like there's so many influences and we get pressure for wanting to do certain things a certain way, and really just to recognize and take a step back and look inwards to look at what is it important to me and make sure whatever that I'm doing and working towards is truly meaningful and valuable. And my next step is start where you are, because so often like we have like this eye on the prize and we forget, okay, where am I starting from? And then from there, identify what you need to move forward and plan ahead. You know, maybe the first step is, do I have sneakers? You know, like let me get my pair of sneakers and let me put them in my gym bag, and that's my first step. And if that's my first step, hey, you did it, you know? And then from there, we can always build.
A lot of Crocs out there. Yeah, get sneakers if you're going to go to the gym.
And then the other thing is just track those milestones, track your progress, because oftentimes we think like, oh, I'm not doing anything, I'm not getting anywhere. And it's like any little moment that you are taking towards moving forward is something to celebrate. So celebrate those little milestones, celebrate all of those little successes along the way, and make sure that you're tracking that, because that helps us to recognize how far we've actually come. Yeah. And then the next thing is be flexible, because life is life and we continue to move like towards it and through it, and things come at us, and sometimes other things become a priority and other things like happen, and it's okay to be flexible, it's okay to adapt, and it's okay to re-strategize and redirect.
These are all really great, amazing tips. We are out of time, unfortunately, but we will have all of this on our website, foxrochester.com, so be sure to go there to check out this interview. And stick around. this January 13th. Thanks so much for joining us here on Arc Rochester. I'm Stephanie Joseph.
And I'm Christian Garzon. We still have much more to get to here on Arc Rochester, but we want to get to one of the top stories right now we're following this morning. Of course, it's the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, now they're moving on to the divisional round after their 31-7 win. Yes, you heard that right. Yesterday over the Denver Broncos. So for more on yesterday's game and some of its takeaways, we are joined now by the Mike Catalana this morning. Hi, Mike.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Oh, not too bad.
31-7.
Yeah, I know. That was huge.
Amazing.
That was huge. That was amazing. So, I mean, it started off 7 points, right? The Broncos, and it's like, oh my God. And then that's all they scored in that game, and the Bills really took it all the way.
Yeah, it was really interesting because they have a young quarterback, right? Bo Nix. And here he is. You want to get him off his game early. And what do the Bills do? They allow him to walk right down the field and throw a touchdown pass. And he's excited. And I think at that moment, you're thinking, if you're the Broncos, you're like, hey, we can play with the Bills. And then they didn't score again. They didn't really even get close. And Josh Allen and the offense were fantastic. I mean, you can see James Cook running the ball. They ran it for over 200 yards. They threw it for 300 yards. Like, they were a dominant team yesterday after a rough start. So, quite honestly, they were the much better team. Denver was pretty fortunate to make the playoffs. They step up big in weight class this week with the Baltimore Ravens.
And Josh Allen surpassing Jim Kelly for the most playoff passing touchdowns in team history?
Yeah, look, Jim was an incredible player, and I was fortunate to cover all those games. And you mentioned that when I saw that stat yesterday, I tried to remember. Josh had played a few less games, too, in total than Jim did to that point in his career. You know, the numbers that Josh is putting up are incredible. What Jim got, though, was, you know, to the AFC Championship game and then to the Super Bowl. And I know every Bills fan knows the history. They didn't win it. But Jim got to 4 Super Bowls. Josh loves the team aspect of it. Sure, the numbers are nice, and he's got more touchdowns than Jim. He's going to break all of Jim Kelly's records. But what he doesn't have is what Jim has, and that's to the Super Bowl 4 times. Let's start with 1, and Sunday will be a major step, obviously, if they can get that done towards finally getting to 1.
Now, the Bills and the Ravens have been doing pretty well this season, I would say. What would you say is something that Buffalo has to focus on as they're taking on the Ravens?
They run the football so well. And they have not only Lamar Jackson, who every Bills fan knows. There's a lot of talk about the MVP, and I can mention that in a minute. But Lamar can run it. But he has Derrick Henry next to him, who is an incredible running back. And that's the weakness on the Bills. Now, they were better yesterday, but Denver wasn't a great running team. The reality is Baltimore just basically what they did to Pittsburgh in the game on Saturday night, they ran the ball, guys, 13 straight plays and went down the field for a touchdown. Like, they can just do that. And the Bills saw it when they played in Baltimore. It was a long time ago. It was the beginning of the year. One of the first plays of the game, I think it was the first play on offense for Baltimore, 92 yards for a touchdown by Derrick Henry. If they run the ball like that or even close to that, it's going to be tough for the Bills. They have to be better that way. Lamar also can throw it. Look, he does it a little differently than Josh Allen, but he can run it. He can throw it like Allen. I think they're the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL. So it's real. They lost 35-10 the first time they played Baltimore. I think Baltimore's a different team now, but I think the Bills are a different team now, too.
As we build up to this crescendo here, you know, hopefully going to the Super Bowl again, the fans must be a combination of excitement, anxiety, sort of all of the above at these games. What say you?
Yesterday was a little more anxiety. You know, it's funny. I talked to some people who they just needed them to win yesterday. And I agree. Obviously, they always want them to win. Yesterday was that you had to win that game. I mean, they were better. They needed to move on. They've won in this round every year since the second year Josh made the playoffs. And you're the better team. That's that Ty Johnson catch, which is incredible yesterday. So you needed to do that. I think there was a lot of anxiety yesterday. I think the fans were into it, but they were nervous. And then you knew they had it in their hands. Right now, let's be honest. It's dead even going the rest of the way. They've got Baltimore at home. If they can win that game, they likely go to Kansas City. So you're talking about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes with Josh Allen. So it's incredible matchups. I think this game is one of the most anticipated games in the last I will say, the last 30 years of the franchise, because you're talking about the two top guys for MVP, whether Lamar wins it again or Josh gets his first, and you're talking about a chance to go to the AFC Championship game. Both of these teams have failed to go to the Super Bowl in this era and have had chances. I think the excitement level off the charts. It's likely the last game in Buffalo this year. Actually, we'll know that on Sunday. If the Chiefs were to lose, the winner of this game is home for the AFC Championship, not expecting the Chiefs to lose. So I think it goes from anxiety to, sure, nervousness, but crazy excitement comes Sunday night.
I feel like there are a lot of good odds with the Bills right now. I know in the past that you've said usually when we're at home, it's not too bad in terms of the game, although we've been proven wrong in some cases. But for the most part.
They've won every game at home this year. Last year, they lost in the playoffs at home to the Chiefs on their way to winning the Super Bowl. They've lost at home to the Bengals in the playoffs. I mean, those were tough losses against good teams. Look, here's the difference. I would say Sunday night, they can play well and lose. That wasn't the case yesterday. If they played well, they were going to win the game. Sunday, Baltimore is good enough that if they can play well, Baltimore can just play better and they could lose. So that's the level we're talking about now. But honestly, the fact that this game is at home against Baltimore, I think makes an immense difference. I think they are really tough down there, just like the Bills are at home. It's, I always say this, 4 decades of doing this, this is why I do it. I can't wait to go Sunday night. I think the fans won't be able to sleep most of the week getting ready for the game. And you get to see Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson for the right to go to the AFC Championship. I think it's going to be an incredible experience. I think it's going to be a great game. And I think the Bills, I think they're early favorites in this game. But no matter what the bettors say, it's going to be somewhere between 1 and 2 points. It's basically an even game between two great teams.
Oh, you heard it here first.
Yeah, you're going to watch that coverage. You guys do a great job. Mike, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you so much. And don't forget to scan this QR code to get to the Buffalo Plus YouTube page. They have everything you need to know as the Bills get ready to face off against the Baltimore Ravens at home this coming Sunday.
And hey, stick around. We have much more to get to here on Arc Rochester.
And don't forget, you can watch us on the go or wherever you are by streaming us live over at 13wham.com and our YouTube channel. We're back right after this. And welcome back. We are continuing to bring you all the latest information on some of the top local news stories we are following this Monday morning.
Yeah, we want to start with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office requesting your help to find a missing woman.
Take a look at your screen. This is 18-year-old Rihanna Price of Chilai. Deputies say she was last seen Friday leaving her home on Audino Lane in an Uber. She's 5'10" and has red hair. Anyone with information is asked to call 911.
Now to closing arguments beginning today in the trial of the man accused in the murder of a Rochester taxi driver last year. 36-year-old David Lee Porter is charged with murder, robbery, and criminal possession of a weapon in the brutal death of David Treese. Police say Porter pistol-whipped Treese and shot him multiple times during a violent robbery last April.
Last week, jurors watched camera footage taken inside the cab, which showed Porter allegedly attacking and shooting Treese while yelling, quote, "Give me the money and keep driving." The defense is arguing the charge of murder with intent and says Porter was intoxicated at the time of the alleged murder.
Now, 13 WHAM will, of course, be in the courtroom today. It's happening shortly for those closing arguments, and we're told Porter is expected to take the stand.
We will keep you up to date with this on the latest trial, both on air and online at 13wham.com.
And also, a woman in her 30s is recovering after she was hit by a vehicle yesterday. Now, officers say just after 8:45 Sunday night, the woman was trying to cross West Avenue in Rochester when she was hit by a car.
She was taken to Strong Memorial with what we're told are non-life-threatening injuries. The driver remained on scene and is cooperating with the investigation. Officers say alcohol or drugs were not a factor and no tickets were issued.
No injuries were reported after a house fire in Greece here. It happened on Ridgecrest Road around 3:15 Sunday afternoon. Investigators believe the fire started from a computer and the flames were contained to the basement. 3 people were inside at the time. They all got out safely and are now receiving assistance from the Red Cross due to damage to the home's gas line.
In Ontario County, a man is facing charges after allegedly abandoning his dog. Authorities say John Kirby Jr. was recently evicted from the Cedar Lodge on Lakeshore Drive in Hopewell and allegedly left behind his 2-year-old bulldog. The dog was found 2 days later without food or water.
Kirby is currently charged with failure to provide food and water to an animal, and we're told other charges are pending. The dog is now being cared for by the Ontario County Humane Society.
We're also looking ahead to tomorrow when Governor Kathy Hochul will deliver her State of the State address. Among the expected topics, free breakfast and lunch for students, making home ownership more affordable, and an expansion to the state's child tax credit.
The governor says her goal for this year is to put more money in New Yorkers' pockets. The address is set for 1 tomorrow afternoon. We will be sure to stream it live on 13wham.com.
Don't go anywhere. We have much more here on ARC Rochester, including when we come back, some tips to make sure you keep on track with those New Year's fitness goals.
9:18. We are nearly 2 weeks into the new year, and for some of those fitness resolutions, they may feel pretty challenging to keep.
Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares some tips to stop you from throwing in the towel too soon.
Hey there, everybody. We're at Quitter's Day in the new year. A couple weeks in, and most of us have given up on our fitness goals. But trainers say a few tweaks can keep you motivated to stick with it.
So just one foot up there, yep, the other foot down.
Helen Roberts-Sorg says a few of those tweaks have helped her keep going for about
at least 6 months, I would say.
She has stuck it out. Twice a week, she schedules a personal training session with Madison Holshoe.
And like I tell her, I walk out feeling so much better than when I walked in.
Madison is the group fitness coordinator here at Ohio's Tri-Health Fitness and Health Pavilion. She says part of what's kept Helen going is that they feel like friends.
Having that social aspect is huge with her and I, so it's just a great time.
When something is social, it's easier to motivate yourself to show up. And so is feeling better as you stick with the workouts.
Oh, I definitely feel stronger as well. You know, the energy and feeling stronger, sleeping better. I feel like I'm more inclined to eat better. Just, I think there's a kind of a ripple effect.
The ripple effect is the third secret to success, Madison says. Good health habits are contagious.
Eating a clean, whole food diet is key. It's not going to only help you feel better, but it's also going to help you reach those goals faster.
And finally, Helen says, never underestimate
having someone waiting for you when you get there. And someone's expecting you, and you have your 11 o'clock appointment, and I think was really important for me. The consistency, accountability.
Accountability, there is no substitute. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonas reporting.
And we want to turn now to some national news as President-elect Donald Trump prepares to take office next week.
Now, Trump says one of his first orders of business is to issue some pardons for people who took part in the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. But Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, says not everyone should be pardoned.
If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly.
More than 1,500 people have been charged with federal crimes ranging from misdemeanors for illegally entering the Capitol to felonies related to assaulting and beating police officers.
Meantime, this week, the Senate will begin confirmation hearings for President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks.
This includes Pete Hegseth, Trump's choice for defense secretary. He's faced scrutiny for previous comments made about women in military combat roles, along with allegations of sexual misconduct and problematic drinking.
Other cabinet picks include Florida Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Kash Patel to lead the FBI, former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Director of Health and Human Services, and former New York gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin to lead the EPA.
Meantime, we're also learning new details about President-elect Trump's plans for mass deportations once he takes office.
Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell.
One of the most dangerous migration routes has also become one of the most popular. The Darien Gap runs between Colombia and Panama, more than 60 miles of dense rainforest and difficult terrain, and a region top Trump officials say they hope to close as soon as possible. Other plans include creating a hotline for people to report undocumented migrants who have committed crimes, and eliminating the CBP One app used by migrants to apply for asylum before coming to the country.
Creating programs to allow thousands of people in this country a week that we don't properly vet and that we know don't qualify is not the answer.
Incoming border czar Tom Homan telling NBC News he also plans to bring back raids and roundups at people's jobs.
I'm not going to forecast what we're doing and where we're doing it, but you can count on worksite enforcement coming back.
Ahead of his White House departure, President Biden is pushing back, just issuing sweeping protections for nearly 1 million migrants, extending temporary protected status for citizens of Ukraine, El Salvador, Sudan, and Venezuela, allowing them to remain and work legally in the United States for another 18 months. Many Democrats warning that in the days ahead, families will be separated as a result of the mass deportation program.
I call it the zero humanity policy because it literally separated kids from their parents. And it was, I think, a real stain on our country.
The incoming vice president firing back.
It is not compassionate to allow the worst people in the world to send minor children, some of them victims of sex trafficking, into our country.
We are already being told to prepare for a long and busy day just 1 week from today. Now, there are several things that Donald Trump has said he plans to do on his, quote, first day in office, but actions on the border and immigration have always been at the top of that priority list. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting.
Hey, stick around. We have much more to get to here on ARC Rochester.
We're back right after this. Good Monday morning. Welcome back to ARC Rochester. I'm Christian Garzone.
And I'm Stephanie Joseph. We still got much more to get to here on ARC Rochester, including going over the results to our poll of the day. So this morning, we asked you, what's your least favorite part about cooking? Your options: finding the perfect recipe, going shopping for ingredients, the prep work, or the sink full of dishes.
Oh boy. You can continue to weigh in on our X account. Scan that QR code on your screen with your smartphone to get there now. Submit your answers and don't forget to comment below. We will have the results from the poll and some of your responses and opinions coming up at the end of the hour.
Yeah, but now we want to check back in with meteorologist Mark McLean for a look at the forecast. And Mark, not too bad in terms of temperature, but boy, is it going to drop later on today.
Yeah, we're already seeing the signs of that. There's a cold front just to the west of Rochester right now, and that cold front starting to produce some snow across the area. It's starting to fill in pretty nicely, especially west of the city. You see this little area out towards Orleans County, Genesee County, western suburbs of Monroe County. We can center in on that and put the radar into motion. And notice that track basically from the west-southwest to the east-northeast. So over the next hour or two, we'll find a little coating of snow as this front starts to move on in from the west. Now, the futurecast shows that sliding off to the east, and then the temperature starts to drop late this evening and tonight. That's going to produce some lake effect snow southwest of Rochester into parts of Wyoming County. Notice that band kind of oscillating around. And then late Tuesday night, we get a chance closer to Rochester of seeing a little bit of snow, but this is not going to be a huge amount closer to the city. If we do get a shovelable snow, likely it'll be southern Genesee County, Wyoming County, and areas further off to the west towards southern Erie County. You see Arcade there close to 6 inches by Wednesday morning. But temps today, yeah, they're in reverse. Low 30s at lunchtime, upper 20s at 4 o'clock, and what should be a windy afternoon on the way for western New York.
Mark, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We want to turn now. We want to turn now to California and an urgent new warning about heavy winds that could make fire conditions even worse.
Yeah, at least 24 people are dead and more than 100,000 people are still under mandatory evacuation orders.
ABC's Zareen Zaha is in Altadena with the latest.
This morning, firefighters in Southern California bracing for conditions to worsen. Forecasters have issued a rare warning, a PDS, or particularly dangerous situation, saying powerful winds this week could threaten new communities in the disaster zone.
The vegetation is still very, very dry, so that leaves a recipe to produce some very critical fire weather conditions.
Wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour are expected today. Since last week, fierce winds have turned wildfires into infernos, leveling entire neighborhoods. The fires have burned more than 12,000 homes and other buildings, making them likely the most destructive fires in U.S. history. In the Pasadena area, more than 39,000 structures are still under threat from the Eaton fire.
It was a nightmare.
Jeffrey and Cheryl Koo first spotted the Eaton fire at 6:19 p.m. last Tuesday on a hill near their home.
I need you to come out here right now.
Their ring camera shows the couple loading their car to evacuate just 10 minutes later.
No!
The sky turning bright orange as flames expanded around the hill.
The point where I felt like this was going to be the last time I would see the house was when the sky was orange.
The couple is seen evacuating at 6:53. They called it 34 minutes of terror.
Every moment I went into the house and out of the house, it was surreal. Every time I checked on the fire, it got worse.
That couple's home mostly spared. It's unclear how the Pacific Palisades or the Eaton fire started. The ATF is leading the investigation. This, as FEMA announced that active duty military will soon be deployed to join the firefighting efforts. So I've been speaking to many of the people who lost homes here in Altadena, and the one thing they want people to know is that this was a community. They say this was not a place where people were buying second or third homes, and they say they are really afraid about insurance. They said rebuild, and for what? Who will ever insure them again? So there's a lot of fears, a lot of sadness and anxiety among people who have just lost so much. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Altadena.
And we will continue to, of course, follow this story and bring you any updates both on air and online at 13wham.com.
Stick around. We have much more to get to here on ARC Rochester.
And don't forget that you can watch us on the go wherever you are streaming on the 13wham YouTube channel. We're back after this.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Tucker the dog caught having a good time after recent snow in the Tennessee Tri-Cities area. Elsewhere, we're told no trees or children were harmed in this video. In Maine, most small ponds and lakes have frozen due to consistent cold over the past couple of weeks. Good news for ice fishing enthusiasts. This Skycam video showing increased activity on a local lake outside Portland.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Welcome back at 9:36. A group of street outreach workers are calling for policy change in Rochester.
It comes after an unsanctioned homeless encampment was removed last month underneath an overpass on Monroe Avenue.
13 Wham's Daniel Finkelstein has this story.
Renewed calls for change. Weeks after an encampment under a local bridge was removed by the city, outreach workers recently weighed in.
Getting rid of the encampments just gets rid of the evidence of the problem. That encampments form when the system fails, that these provide real communities and places of safety for people.
Matthew James Seidel and Amy D'Amico volunteer with Rochester Grants Pass Resistance, often distributing supplies to Rochester's unhoused. They say the reasons some people choose not to accept aid or shelter are often complex and feel people should be supported where they are.
They bring me looks to be a layer of clothes.
Nicholas Pregel has been unhoused for some time, living on the streets of Rochester. For his privacy, we have blurred some of the footage.
I got a mattress. Well, first the pallet, then the mattress, and then all the bedspread. And that's what I do.
It was these conditions during single-digit weather last month which the city said posed a safety risk. An unsanctioned encampment under a South Clinton Avenue bridge was removed. A spokesperson for the city saying it was important to connect people with the county's Code Blue shelters, but acknowledging the barriers contributing to why some choose to remain outside.
If we know they're not going to go in shelter, we have to start providing alternatives that they will go in. None of us want to see people outside.
D'Amico and Seidel believe support mechanisms need to change, barrier-free shelters, more financial assistance for rent affordability, among others. But in their view, the city should end the so-called sweeps.
I give them warm things. I give them hot hands. I give them some chicken noodle soup. I give them some gloves, something that they ask for.
That was our Daniel Finkelstein reporting there. We did reach back out to a spokesperson for the city of Rochester for a comment, and we're referred to their original comments made back in December. That statement can be found on our website, 13wham.com.
It's time to take a look at some consumer news this morning. We'll start things out with the USDA releasing its
report shows unsanitary conditions at a facility in Virginia were contributing factors to the outbreak, which killed 10 people and sickened more than 60 others.
Food inspectors say they found living and dead insects along with mold, mildew, and other problems at the facility, which was closed last fall. The report also called for better government oversight to prevent future listeria outbreaks.
Okay, let's turn now to some space news. Blue Origin says it's working to reschedule the launch of its 30-story New Glenn rocket.
It comes after technical problems caused the company to cancel its attempted planned launch for early this morning.
ABC's Andrew Dimbert has more.
Overnight, a setback as Jeff Bezos takes on Elon Musk in the modern space race. Blue Origin, the space tech company founded by Jeff Bezos, delaying the launch of New Glenn, set to be the first rocket from the company to reach orbit.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9.
The reusable rocket marks the first major competitor to Elon Musk's SpaceX Falcon 9, which has been launching payloads for more than a decade. New Glenn is larger than the Falcon 9 and packs twice the power.
We can take 45 metric tons to LEO orbit. It really changes what people are going to think about how and what they can bring to space.
Blue Origin has made some notable launches in the past, sending nearly 50 people into space aboard their New Shepard rocket, including our Michael Strahan.
Oh my God!
At the same height as a 32-story building, New Glenn could fit the New Shepard rocket inside its cargo hold, and yet it's still not as large as SpaceX's Starship rocket. Bezos is also challenging Musk on other fronts, with plans to launch a constellation of internet satellites to take on SpaceX's Starlink internet service. And the race is on to be the first private company to land humans on the moon, something that hasn't been done in more than 50 years. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
A new report has found some of the fastest growing jobs this year revolve around artificial intelligence.
Yeah, LinkedIn looked at millions of jobs based on user information and found the top 2 jobs were AI engineer and AI consultant. Following that is physical therapist, workforce development manager, and travel advisor.
Okay, turning now to something that you have to take a look at because you can soon own a piece of Olympic history.
A gold medal from the 1904 Summer Games is on the auction block. It was awarded to American Fred Schul after he won the 110-meter hurdles.
The 1904 Games in St. Louis were the first ones held outside Europe and marked the first time gold, silver, and bronze medals were awarded to the top 3 finishers.
And a treasure trove of Bob Dylan memorabilia is going up for auction as well.
Yeah.
There will be about 50 items up for sale, including early handwritten drafts of his first #1 hit, Mr. Tambourine Man.
And among the items are multiple pieces of original art, including a signed oil painting from 1968. The auction is set to take place in Nashville this coming Saturday.
Stick around. We have much more to get here on ARC Rochester, including when we come back is this weekend's Health in a Handbasket.
We're back right after this.
It's time now for this week's edition of Health in a Handbasket. And this morning we're talking about our progress on our New Year's resolutions and if we survived Quitter's Day.
Well, for more on what that is and how we can keep track with our goals, we are now joined by registered dietitian and nutritionist Alyssa Strassman. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Go ahead.
Yeah, just want to ask you, Quitter's Day, for anyone who isn't familiar at home, it was last week, right?
Yes, it was Friday of last week, and I think it's fairly new, but what we're finding is around 23% of people quit their New Year's resolutions by the end of the first week of January, and that number jumps to 43% by the end of the month. So what I thought we could do today is just address Quitter's Day, and if people are in this category, or if they are feeling like a quitter and feeling all sorts of ways, maybe we can help some people out, because I know sometimes there can be some emotions that come with that. And so what I want everybody just to do, if they were someone that were gung-ho and really wanted to create some changes in 2025, just for anybody that started the year with intentions or resolutions, just look back at the last 13 days and recognize anything that you may have possibly done to make a step towards creating change. So just acknowledge, like, any step that you move forward for what you had hoped for yourself. Like, take a look back and see, was there anything that I did? And if you can find anything, I want everybody to give themselves a pat on the back because you moved forward.
Yeah.
That's really key. That's really key. And you can always pick up where you left off. You can say, okay, I took a couple weeks, but you know what? I'm going to get back on the saddle. And it's mid-February, but you know what? I'm just going to go give another shot here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we get so hard on ourselves, right? Like, it's like black and white thinking, or this all or none. Like, I'm either all in or I'm forget it. Like, I messed up and I'm done. And, you know, life is life. Like, we keep moving through it. And so it's important to recognize, you know, each day is a new day, and there is so many opportunities, and there are so many things that may come, you know, our way, and times where we can practice, you know, some things that we hope for ourselves.
Yeah, that is for sure. And I think it's all about making smaller goals as well to make sure that when you reach that bigger one, it didn't feel like such a big push. Do you have any tips for anyone on how to start making those incremental goals?
Yeah, so I also just going back, when we're thinking about making change, or perhaps like when we think about, wow, I didn't really get to where I was wanting to go for myself, just kind of ask ourselves what got in the way. Because I think oftentimes when we're looking at some of the research, oftentimes when people have trouble like making changes, it's because we're just being so unrealistic with some of the things that we were hoping to achieve for ourselves. And so some things that we may just look at was this intention unrealistic or unreasonable for me at this time in my life? Or perhaps was it less of a priority? Like, we think about all the things that come our way, maybe something else rose to the top, or maybe that wasn't something as important for us, or perhaps that intention that we set out for ourselves wasn't really serving us. You know, it just was something that was too much at that time or too unrealistic. And so if you are a quitter and you decided, hey, that's not for me, then give yourself a round of applause for recognizing, wow, I'm not going to hold myself to this commitment for something that really didn't serve me in the first place.
We live in this society now, it's sort of instant gratification. Maybe we should all dream big but start smaller and recognize it's going to take time to get to where we need to be. And a small step is better than no step.
Yeah, absolutely. I always share with people what is important to you. Like, ask yourself what really is important to you and why is it important to me at this time. So if someone is still wanting to create change in their life, we can do this at any time. It doesn't have to be now. It can be when the time is right, but why is this important to me? What is important to me, and what does that mean for myself? Because it can mean many different things for many different people. But I do have some tips. So if people are still looking to create change, make sure whatever you are working towards is truly meaningful and valuable to you. I think oftentimes we get so much messaging. Like, there's so many influences, and we get pressure for wanting to do certain things a certain way, and really just to recognize and take a step back and look inwards to look at what is it important to me and make sure whatever that I'm doing and working towards is truly meaningful and valuable. And my next step is start where you are, because so often, like, we have like this eye on the prize and we forget, okay, where am I starting from? And then from there, identify what you need to move forward and plan ahead. You know, maybe the first step is, do I have sneakers? You know, like, let me get my pair of sneakers and let me put them in my gym bag, and that's my first step. And if that's my first step, hey, you did it, you know? And then from there, we can always build.
A lot of Crocs out there. Yeah, get sneakers if you're going to go to the gym.
And then the other thing is just track those milestones, track your progress, because oftentimes we think like, oh, I'm not doing anything, I'm not getting anywhere. And it's like any little moment that you are taking towards moving forward is something to celebrate. So celebrate those little milestones, celebrate all of those little successes along the way, and make sure that you're tracking that, because life is life, and we continue to move like towards it and through it, and things come at us, and sometimes other things become a priority and other things like happen, and it's okay to be flexible, it's okay to adapt, and it's okay to re-strategize and redirect.
These are all really great, amazing tips. We are out of time, unfortunately, but we will have all of this on our website, foxrochester.com, so be sure to go there to check out this interview. 9:55, time now for our final thoughts here on Arc Rochester.
Let's get right to our poll of the day. This morning we asked you, what's your least favorite part about cooking? Your options are finding the perfect recipe, going shopping for ingredients, the prep work, or the sink full of dishes. The results. Yeah, I can't do that.
Sink full of dishes.
Yeah.
That would have been my second choice.
Yeah, I washed dishes at Clifton Springs Hospital and Clinic for, I don't know, years and years and years. I used to hate all the dishwashing.
Yeah,
but I did it
not
because,
fun.
yeah, it was what it was. And when they would burn all the stuff in the bottom, you got to scrape it off or whatever.
That's the worst. I have to let it soak overnight.
I know.
Yeah.
So I get this poll, folks. I get it. I understand it.
We
for
understand.
Sure.
We also want to shout out a viewer. I have my phone out because we got an email about it, who gave Christian some tips about some potatoes. So if you want to know, slice a couple of vents in the potato, place that potato in a small bowl with a 1/4 inch of water, and then thank you so much for tuning in and listening and offering that advice. It's advice I'll use too.
Yeah, I'm a microwaver, so what can I do? Like, I microwave potatoes, they blow up in there. So thank you for the advice on that. What was her name, by the way? Do we know?
No.
Oh, well, you know, we'll get some other to be continued.
Yes.
But yeah, I appreciate that so much. Poke a hole in the potatoes or whatever so they don't explode all over the microwave, or the microwave, as we say.
Well, that'll do it for us here on Arc Rochester. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning starting at 4:57. Yes, 4:57 on 13 WHAM ABC.
We also have much more live local news coming up later today at 13 WHAM News at midday. We'll see you then. Have a great day.
Tomorrow morning, the RPO will be taking an audience to the Land of Oz. And it's not just through the music. The details on Arc Rochester on Fox after Good Day Rochester. Tuesday morning, sampling one of the best pizzas in town in the middle of National Pizza Week. It's on Good Day Rochester and then Arc Rochester on Fox. Good Day Rochester starts at 5 on 13 WHAM ABC.